All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, and let us continue our walk through the unrestricted free agents by position. Today, a position that you would think the Avs don't necessarily have a pressing need for, but maybe they will, depending on how things go this offseason, and that's in the defense department. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
Your Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Locked On Avalanche. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Make sure to follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live, and definitely subscribe to our subtext. Link to that is in the show notes below. When you subscribe, you talk with Kyle and I on a one-on-one basis. On today's episode, we are recording this as the third period of the Dallas Stars and Vegas Golden Knights is happening right now. Vegas pretty much has that game in hand, but the things that have been going on during that game, we didn't really anticipate to talk about it, but we will. We definitely will. So that'll be happening a little bit later. And we have Erik Johnson and his season grade to get to. But where we start today is kind of where we've been starting in these last handful of episodes of Locked On Avalanche, and that's going through the unrestricted free agents. We've been doing it by position. Today's the defenseman, and you look at what the Avalanche have in defense, and you feel pretty good about it. Obviously, when you have guys like Cale Makar and Devon Toews and Sam Girard and Bowen Byram, you feel pretty good about your main group of guys. But we've said it a couple times since the Avalanche season came to an end, there might be some turnover there for the Avalanche on the defense side. So they might have to dip into the free agency. I mean, I say they might have to dip into it. They probably will anyway for some depth. But you keep hearing one Sam Girard might be something of a trade to bring in a 2C and to alleviate some of that cap. And that cap would go towards a 2C. And then you hear the name Devon Toews get thrown out there. And I think a lot of people feel like the Avs will get something done with him because his number is obviously going to go up. But how do they make that work? How do they make the money work and the cap work to be able to extend him? And if they feel like they can't, is there a deal for him, a business deal that they feel like, okay, we have to get rid of him so we get something back? Maybe that doesn't happen right away. Maybe that's like a later on type of thing. But that is at least on the table. You can't deny that it's on the table right now.
Yeah, and you would like to make the move. Like if you're in the Avalanche front office, that Sam Girard contract, especially after last year finished, you're looking at it, you're like, this is going to be a problem. And you look at your cap hit, what you need, and all the everydayers that have been listening to every episode talking about the unrestricted free agents that are out there. When you're looking at the defense position when it comes to unrestricted free agents, the everydayers have been sound checking the defense for that tenacious D that's out there, and they can't find their wonder boy because the defense is kind of thin. So if you're going to be making a move like that, what are you going to replace the production of a Devon Toews? What are you going to replace the production of a Sam Girard? Is it out there in the unrestricted free agent pool? Are you going to have to make another trade? You got to think about these things. Yes, you want to offload those contracts and kind of get away from what Toews is going to be getting, but you also have to put a hockey team together. We said that a couple times already. And with what's out there as a UFA, I don't know if you're going to be getting that same kind of production unless you're going to be making another heavy-hitted move.
I think we'll get to who's available in a minute, but I think there could be guys that if you get rid of someone like Sam Girard, I feel like you can go get somebody that's in free agency that could match the production offensively. But what he brings, I know people think like his actual defense is suspect. It's not as bad as people want to make it out to be, but he's a great puck mover.
Mm-hmm.
He is a great transition defenseman. He turns defense into offense. That might be tough to find someone that can do it on kind of like the level that he does it. But it's interesting because you can go into this season if you're the Avalanche with those 4 guys, and then you fill in like the last pairing. I say last pairing, and you even have Josh Manson there too. And I know he didn't have the best playoff, but let's calm down. I think he was injury riddled last year. But you can go into next year with a really good defensive unit.
Mm-hmm.
And at you have to sacrifice if you don't make a move with someone like Sam Girard. You are sacrificing the 2C, because really you have to kind of go find, if you're not going to trade for the 2C, you have to get it somewhere. What's been here has not been the best in terms of, Alex Newhook and JT Compher was a little bit better. But you're sacrificing that if you don't make a move, because what's available on the waiver wire is not, or not the waiver wire, I'm sorry, the free agency wire is not the best. So it's kind of like a catch-22. Do you want to go in with this defensive unit and feel good about it and then figure it out in another year? But now you're up against free agents like with Devon Toews. This is another kind of interesting kind of tale for the Avalanche in the offseason. And with Toews, I know a lot of people are saying like, oh, they're never going to trade Toews. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think they're going to do they're going to move mountains to try to get him signed, because if it's between, we got to trade Sam Girard to sign Toews, I think you do that. I think you make that move. But if they feel like, if they're having these negotiations with Toews and they feel like what he's asking for, even if we trade Sam Girard, what he is asking for is just, it can't fit into our budget, they might have to make that business decision. And I keep saying that because you have to remember how we got Devon Toews. It was a business decision that the Islanders had to make. They didn't want to get rid of him either. But Joe Sakic came in, swept in, knew the Islanders were struggling cap-wise, and just stole him. And now, like, that contract is running out. He has exceeded that contract. I think the Avalanche can get it done. I think they would. He is a priority. If they have to move other guys because of it, I think they have to seriously consider that, because he's not a guy that they want to let go.
And I understand the anti-tasers saying last year he was a little bit invisible. There was a lot of just not typical Toews moves when it comes to turnovers and just decisions that he made, but his hockey IQ is off the charts, and it pairs well with Cale Makar. It's why they're always, you see them paired up well together. So you want Toews back, especially if there's going to be turnover. If Sam Girard's going away, you want whoever you bring in to be around Toews. What he brings to the defense is, you really can't put a price tag on it. The Avs will have to next year. I feel like this is one of those, you mentioned it, like, keep this core together and address it either at the trade deadline or worry about it next year, because as we talked about, the forward issue is going to be the number one thing to address. I would work there and then keep just the defense, which has got you to where you are. It's got you the cup. It's got you the success from the worst team to a playoff contender. You keep that core together.
Yeah, and I feel like if you do trade someone like Sam Girard, then what's your moves? Then you have, then your 4 is Makar, Toews, Byram, and who am I'm blanking on his name already.
You got Makar, Toews,
Manson, Josh Manson.
Yeah.
And then what do you do? Like, you could go sign Erik Johnson, who obviously is a free agent, for pretty cheap. You could go sign the other Johnson and Jack Johnson for pretty cheap, or you could bring up one of your young guys. You have a couple young defensemen, especially a lot of people obviously are high on Sam Malinsky, the college signing that they had. The trade with San Jose that brought in Ryan Merkley. He's a restricted free agent this year, but they should have no problem signing him. Do you give it up to one of those young guys to take that position if you have to trade someone like Sam Girard? And then your top 4 is who we said, and then the bottom 2 is maybe one of the Johnsons if you want to retire or re-sign them, or both of them. I think that's an aged defensive pairing if you go that route, or you get one of them and let's say Merkley maybe, or I don't, or Malinsky, one of those 2, or one of the free agents that we're about to talk about.
Yeah, so. I especially with what you saw last year with injuries and Eagles call-ups at the beginning of the year, I don't see why you can't roll that last defensive pairing in that same fashion. Mm-hmm. You really want to, and training camp is another thing you want to keep your eye on, but I would not be opposed to calling up an Eagle to fill that last spot on the defensive core and just roll with what you got and let the forwards figure it out.
It'd be a risk because those 2 guys that were talking specifically just are not really tested. No, they're not tested in the pros, so that is a risk. But let's get into some of these unrestricted free agents. First, we're going to hear from eBay Motors, and then we'll get into them. So for a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. And it's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure that every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your car to the My Garage tab and look for the green check, and that part will fit your car or your money back, because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. So get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only, and exclusions apply. Before we go any further, we have to throw out a congratulations to the good old Denver Nuggets for making that NBA final. Denver teams like to do sweeps in conference finals. I don't know what it is, but congratulations to them. Probably going to get up against the Miami Heat, who I think are losing right now.
Yes, they were trailing the Celtics. Yes.
Okay. But even if it gets 3-1, you have to like the chances of Miami. So in all likelihood, a Nuggets and Heat final. I don't really follow the NBA all that much, but it's exciting to have another Colorado team in a championship final. So go follow the boys on Locked On Nuggets, and I'm sure you guys are already. So good luck to them in the NBA finals. As we move forward with our defensemen in the unrestricted free agent category, let's do this kind of how we've been doing things. We've been looking at the guys that are $5 million and up, what they made last year. And at the top of that list, John Klingberg from Minnesota, $7 million cap hit. And right below him, our very own Erik Johnson with that $6 million. It's kind of crazy to look at that just to see, the production. And that's why teams don't like to sign long-term deals, because it's tough to long-term deals for guys that age. Yeah, because it's tough for the production to last into their mid-30s, and he's a great example of that. So,
and Zach Parise,
he's another one. Yep. Where are we? Okay, Matt Dumba, he's $6 million as well. Dmitry Orlov is at $5.1 million, and my boy, actually, he's under 5, but I'm going to throw him in there because he's my boy, Mr. Shane Gostisbehere. He made 4.5. So that's your move. It's clear as day. You trade Sammy G, you bring in Shane Gostisbehere for less than what Sammy G is making. Done deal. What do you think?
I
just want to Shane Gostisbehere.
Yeah, I knew this was coming. I was gonna let you have your Gostisbehere pep rally and parade. I mean, it would be great. It would be nice. I'd
love it.
I've heard year after year your sales pitch on how great Gostisbehere would be for the Colorado Avalanche.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to make a move like that with the cap troubles that they have, if the Avs are going to trade Sam G, this is what you do. You take that money and you go get former Colorado Avalanche Ryan Graves, who is much cheaper.
He is.
And
he's
has
a different type of
rapport.
player. Yeah.
Has a rapport with the boys. He's a different type of player, yes, but you don't know what kind of player you're getting in Gostisbehere either. Whatever jersey he puts on, it's a different type of adaptation. And honestly, Gravy has kind of come into his own with his stint with the Devils, even though his production points-wise has been very similar. His 2 years in New Jersey, his 2 years in Colorado, very similar points-wise. But Gravy has this new refound confidence. And for him to kind of be like this kind of world traveler and come back to Colorado and be right there with Toews, I think that it's going to be much cheaper. And you can use that money to go get you a 2C, go get you the rest of your forwards. I feel like that would be a better move and a safer move because you're really not thinking defense when you're trying to put this team together.
It would be definitely cheaper. And do the Avalanche need someone like Shane Gostisbehere? No, they really don't. Like they have players that kind of do what he does and probably a little bit better. It's just for total selfish reasons why I want him on the Avs. I readily admit that. But that's not to say like he wouldn't help them. He would definitely help them. And how you said like he's kind of like a different player wherever he goes. I kind of like that. He's adaptable then. Like he adapts to his surroundings and he can kind of play in different systems. I don't know if the same can be said for Ryan Graves, but the interesting thing is like I always wonder what would have happened to Ryan Graves if the expansion draft never came about, if Seattle never was a thing, or if we had 32 teams, a decade ago, and this was never. What would have happened to Ryan Graves in the Avalanche? Because that's why they got rid of him. It was on the writing was on the wall that Seattle was going to take him in the draft. So they basically said like, well, we'll just go get something for him. And that's exactly what they did. And then, Seattle had no recourse on that. They couldn't do anything about it.
Sounds like a good what if episode.
Yeah. I kind of wonder how long his tenure would have lasted in Colorado. So it kind of made me feel like, even though like I don't want to say he struggled to kind of keep up because he's a big guy. So he's never going to have that speed, right? He's not a fast guy, but he can be the defender. And how we talk about Cale Makar and the offensive ability that he has, even Toews and even Bowen Byram, like the Avalanche are loaded with the offensive defensemen who are very good at defense as well. And Graves is kind of like the opposite. Like it's defense first for him. Yeah. And you want that. You clearly need that on your team as well. You can't have all the same style of defensemen for all 6 of your defensemen. So, and if the Avalanche have shown us anything, and we talked about this when Alan sent us this question in, when we did the Instagram mailbag, the Avs have shown they like bringing back, familiar faces.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah. I mean, I love your Ghost Bear idea, but there's less you have to teach Ryan Graves when it comes to playing Avalanche hockey. You could just
coach hasn't gone anywhere.
Yeah. Yep. You just sign him, say, hey, you know what to do, and just let him go. Gostisbehere, you got to babysit a little bit. It's kind of, this is how we do things. This is who you cycle the puck to. A couple games of figuring that out. Gravy, you just sign him, go. You're good to go.
Now, if you're organizing by points from last year, you have Erik Gustafsson, and I love saying that name because it just makes me think of grumpy old men.
I think of Alex Gustafsson, the UFC fighter. So,
okay, yeah. So he led defensemen in terms of unrestricted free agents in points with 42, and he had a cap hit of 800,000 last year. He's 31 years old right now. Played for obviously the Maple Leafs. Interesting to see what they're going to do with him, or if he hightails it for some other team. 1 point behind him was Shane Gostisbehere, with 41 points in 75 games. Orlov was 36 points in 66 games. He's at 5.1. Klingberg, 33 points in 67 games. And he's at the 7 minute. So with the exception of Gustafsson, all the other guys are like you saw in a lot of the forward positions, like a mixture of points and cap hit. It wasn't just the high cap guys were at the top of the list in points. With the exception of the number one guy who led the unrestricted free agents in points, all those other guys kind of like lived up to their contracts.
Yeah.
And Graves is actually, let's see, Shattenkirk's up there, and Graves is up there. Graves had 34. No, I'm sorry. Graves had 26 points in 78 games. For him, that's not bad. That's not
he
bad.
topped out at 28 with the Avs. So that's about what you want.
Okay. And you're not looking to him to do that. So, and I know I'm bringing up like points and stuff like that. It's not the main focus for a defenseman. And what did he make last year? 3.1. 3.1. It's tough to gauge where he'll be. He's not going to go lower than that. It might be a little bit higher than that, I would say. And he's 28. So this is his 27, 28 year contract. This is where he wants to cash in as much as he can. And can he do that with the Avalanche? I don't know. Like, you don't want to get rid of like Sammy G in a trade and his $5 million and then just go sign another defenseman for almost the same amount of money. That's kind of counterproductive to what the plan is.
Yeah, if you could get Gravy to agree to like a 3.5, that would be fine and great. But if you're going north of 4, that's when you close the door on that one and look elsewhere.
Yeah. I'm trying to look at some other. Yeah, Luke Shen on here.
Nick Holden.
Nick Holden is on. Yeah. Yep. So Ian Cole is on there. So you have some former Avs here. I say the guys who made good money kind of lived up to their name in terms of points. Matt Dumba was pretty low on that list.
I was waiting on that name to come up.
Yeah. So he's 21st in points. I don't know.
That's another name I do not ever expect to see in an Avalanche jersey.
I mean, I think when you're looking at defensemen, you're looking at what's the more depth moves going to be.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like Ryan Graves, he's not really like, I don't think he wants to be that guy. I don't think he might look at what's in Colorado and be like, yeah, my minutes are going to be limited there. He might not want to come back because he knows he's not going to get the playing time if he stays where he is in New Jersey or goes somewhere else that can offer him more minutes. I think where the Avalanche are looking at even someone like you got Susie in Seattle. That's not a bad move.
Yeah, I saw that name up there, and it's very appealing. And for that role, that would be great. But with Seattle taking the run they did in the playoffs, I wonder if it's they're in the mindset of we're putting this band back together. We have something working here. And I wonder if he's even going to test the market.
Yeah. And then you have Gavrikov in Los Angeles. I don't think he's really going anywhere. Where Troy Stetcher from Calgary. I think you're looking at guys like that. Calvin DeHaan with Carolina right now. I'm just kind of like scrolling through like kind of the guys in the lower end here.
Andreas Englund.
I don't know if they bring him back. And right below him is Ryan Murray, who had a short stint with the Avs. So I think you're looking more in the depth pool here for defensemen than you are in maybe like the forward positions, because you're okay. You're okay at defense, but you still have to make some maybe difficult decisions for the Avalanche this offseason. So let us know what you think and comment away in terms of defensemen, because the Avs are going to have to bring in some guys, and some of those later names that we just mentioned could be where they look. So we'll see. All right, let's hear from Bird Dogs, and then we'll get to Erik Johnson and his grade. But I'm willing to bet Our very own Shaggy Von Doom is either wearing a pair of bird dogs or they're right next to him because he might use them as a pillow. They might double as a pillow
How
for
about
his.
C, all of the above? Final
Yes.
answer.
Yeah, because you have 2 pairs. They sent us 2 pairs of these things. So you can wear one pair while you're snuggling up with another pair. Yeah. These things are, I have to say, like I've heard of bird dogs, but I never purchased any bird dogs. And when they signed on with us here at Locked On, they sent us a couple pairs of shorts. Highly impressed with the material that these things are made of. They're insanely comfortable. You can get them with or without a liner. And I think the liner just makes them even more comfortable than they already
Yes.
are. You could get them without it if you don't want the liner. But the one thing that I said last week when we were doing the Bird Dogs ad was I was looking forward to, we were building a deck and I did exactly what I said I was going to do, Mr. Sullivan. We had a day, we were building the deck, and at the end of the day, sat back there, relaxed, and it was, I'm not going to say like a pair of shorts made my day brighter, but I was just out there in comfort, total and complete comfort.
And that's exactly what I do with my bird dogs. It is, I cycle them in and out. My daughter even said, "Dad, do you wear anything other than bird dogs now?" And I looked at her, her sweet little 9-year-old face. I said, "No."
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that just attaches to like 1 or 2 pairs of shorts or 1 or 2 pairs of jeans and just cycles through them. And the bird dogs have they have replaced my usual shorts, and now they're the go-to. And the thing that you hear about most with bird dogs, either it's the pants or the shorts, is the fit, the comfort, and the versatility. So right now they have a nice little offer for our people over here at Locked On. You go to birddogs.com/lockedonnhl and enter the promo code Locked On NHL. They will throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti style tumbler with every order. And if you're looking on YouTube, there is that beautiful tumbler right there, even with the imprint on the bottom. I don't know why that impresses me. It just does. So go to birddogs.com right now /lockedonnhl. Order up some shorts for the summer months. They are here, and get a nice, cool tumbler. All right, couple more things to get to, and we are going to start with Mr. Erik Johnson and his grade for the season. If you're watching over on YouTube, there it is. And he is pretty much C's across the board. I went with a C minus. And everybody else went with C. Kyle went with a C. YouTube 49% C. Twitter 41% C. And Instagram 45% C. And it was Twitter where it was 41% C, 40% B. So it was very, very close on Twitter. But another player who got grades, he got A's. There were some A's thrown in there, and there were some D's and F's smattered in there as well. But you went with a C. Explain why.
This felt like the Erik Johnson goodbye tour.
Mm-hmm.
The injury kind of ruined that a little bit, but he came back quicker than anticipated, which is why I didn't go for a C minus, because that is where his grade would have fallen. He kind of disappeared. He was a scratch at one point.
A healthy scratch at one point.
It's Erik Johnson. The contract, I mean, we call him the Condor, but that was an albatross of a contract that was just weighing the team down. We love everything you do, EJ, but just was not your best campaign.
And I think, what he did last year was kind of what I was hoping for this year.
Yeah.
He's his mid 30s now. So, and he was never that offensive powerhouse of a guy, but he's a big body. So you kind of rely on him on the defensive side of things. And I thought he was okay defensively, but I think you could just see hockey wears on you, man.
Yep.
And he's been in the league since what, 2007, 2008.
Yes.
So it you can just tell, like, all the injuries he's gone through. Impressed with the playoffs. He played 70 games. So he still can give you some production in terms of being a body out there, but that's not what you want right now. And you look at his, the offensive side of things, 1 goal. And that 1 goal just happened to be a game-winning goal, and it was in the playoffs. So he didn't score a goal during the regular season, and he had 8 assists, so a total of 9 points. He's not he's not out there for the offense, but he can give it to you. He has a really good shot. And I just don't think the skill set, it just diminishes when you get older. And when you're going up against a league that's getting younger, it's tough to be able to find, like, you look at Cale Makar, and he's younger and he can create chances for himself. Erik Johnson just can't do that anymore. So okay, that's okay, fine. So then what's your other role on the team? And that's just to be on the defensive side of things. And in that aspect, you were okay. You were so. But yeah, I mean, they still relied on him for, you look at his average time on ice. He's out there for 17 minutes at each game. So, but a lot of that was because of injuries. So you always use the word invisible when talking about guys. That was me and Erik Johnson this year. I just thought if you're going to ask me who was the most invisible guy that was out there, I was shocked when I was entering these stats and saw that he was out there for an average of 17 minutes.
Yeah, and EJ's best offensive days were with Tyson Barrie, where he was firing shots from the blue line and making things go in that way. Mm-hmm. Those years, it's diminished since then. And you brought up Cale Makar. This year was an example of Cale Makar, Bowen Byram, and even Toews to an extent, kind of changing the game with their play style. And Erik Johnson, the game getting away from him because of his age.
Yeah.
Like he can't help you out offensively. Defensively, with the injuries, he's a little bit slower, and you're watching the game speed around him. So it's about the end of the road for Erik Johnson. Love everything, and we're not saying this because we're kind of dumping on him. No, we love everything EJ's ever done for this team, but this was about the end.
I think I've said it a few times. I think he wanted to come back, number one, because he was still making $6 million in 1 more year. And it lined up perfectly for him. He had 1 year left on his contract that was going to pay him $6 million. And that last year was to defend a Stanley Cup title, which he had yet to do in his career either. And now that both of those things are done, where does he go from here? Obviously, that's up to him. Horse racing is definitely a big thing for him. So I don't know. I if I'm the Avalanche, I just kind of feel like, all right, it's time. It's time. There's, as we were just saying before, how the Avalanche love familiar faces, but you can't just keep doing that. You can't just keep regurgitating familiar faces just because you like what they've done for you over the course of their career. And we said again in this episode, business decisions. Love you, Erik Johnson. I hope that you retire as an Avalanche and they give you a front office position doing something, or even an assistant coach position or whatever the case may be. I hope I wouldn't. It's weird because I wouldn't want to see him in another uniform.
Bring him on an altitude.
Yeah, do that if he's up for that. So I don't know. Like if they do go re-sign him, it's going to be for a very, very low number, probably like close to the league minimum, or around $1 million. Here's $1 million to go play. But I think what he would bring out on the ice for you wouldn't really help you.
Nope.
So we'll see. We'll have to see where it goes for Erik Johnson in this offseason, see what he decides to do. Because when you get that hockey itch, sometimes it's just tough to let it go.
Yeah.
But we'll see. All right, we're gonna wrap it up there. I know we said we'd get to the Stars and Vegas, but maybe it's a good thing that we're not going to get to it today because we're running a little bit long, because there was still 10 minutes left in the game when we started this. Maybe something even crazier happened in those last 10 minutes, and we'll get to that tomorrow. But just know, shame, Dallas Stars fans.
Be better.
And Jamie Benn, shame. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But it's looking like a Vegas and Florida. Well, Florida, it's going down that road of Florida and Vegas in the Stanley Cup final. So But we'll talk about that tomorrow. And we will get to goalies as well. That could be an interesting, just like the defenseman, could be an interesting offseason for backup goalies for the Avalanche. So that's going to wrap it up for today's episode, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I'm Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow.